Hi, good morning. I am Success Sagade, and this is BizGen Flow, where we have the realest, the most relatable conversations around business, entrepreneurship, and also transitioning from university into the workplace. And today we have with us a visionary, the founder of our initiative, Dr. Roti Balogun. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, nice to be here.
Dr. Roti, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. My name is Olumoroti Balogun. I describe myself as a learner, a father, a visionary, but more importantly, I describe myself as a important member of building the next generation of leaders. And so I currently lead an organization called High Initiative. We have multiple products in that organization. Where's Online, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
We have DigiSpray, which is sort of in the entertainment industry. I have a foundation, right, that sort of looks at early careers, early childhood, and technology development and skills, and a couple of other expressions as a HR leader. I spent a lot of my career in global firms like Ericsson and GE and JP Morgan as a chief talent officer. And I've decided to continue to grow leaders and the next generation in my current expressions in the businesses I run.
Wow, that's a lot of words to wear. Yeah. So just going back to the beginning, you did mention Western Line.
Mhm.
What's bettered the idea of the vision of Western Line?
Yeah. So Where's Online, which means work experience scheme online, it was born out of a frustration and conviction, right?
Oh, okay.
The frustration was that there are a lot of incredibly talented individuals, students that don't necessarily always have the opportunity to be their best selves. They don't always have the opportunity to learn as fast as their global counterparts. And the frustration is also just because I've worked in all of this global organizations,
Oh.
advising leaders, and they're always either complaining about the readiness of talent to either work or even to start their own ventures. And so for me, it was important to make sure that I addressed that frustration heads on. The conviction was that technology can help to
Sure.
solve the challenges, right? And so Where's Online for me was the answer to that question, right? And Where's Online in itself was built to essentially help learners to be able to have better access to opportunity,
Sure.
access to professional networks, access to career guidance, access to mentorship, and access to accelerated skills development, which was typically reserved for a privileged few. But using technology, being able to scale that, I believe that Where's Online essentially would enable ultimately building ecosystems that collaborates to solve the problem of employability and entrepreneurship. So
Wow.
that's what Where's Online is.
Wow, I must commend that. That is a whole lot, and I think that for this generation particularly, it's coming at a very timely time. It's so timely because a lot of young persons have this struggle. I had this struggle.
Right.
I had this
Right.
struggle moving from university and then to the workforce. It was just a whole lot. Now seeing what you are doing, it just shows that you have these young persons at heart. You actually want to lead them, and that is very commendable.
Thank you.
Okay, I think from all what you've said, my audience would like to know what you think is the biggest gap between education and career success, because we know you're an expert in this and this is your field. So, what do you think is this?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think the biggest gap between education and career success is really the difference between knowledge and application, right? Um, there is a lot of knowledge. Knowledge is available online at fingertips, 24 hours, but application is finite, right? And so, the ability for those that have gone through many different forms of educations, a lot of our students have great degrees, they have many qualifications, a lot of technical, theoretical knowledge, but applying it every day in solving real problems is kind of where the gap is. And so, my sense is that, when you have systems that can enable the application of knowledge, right? And that's kind of where I believe that some of our vision around Where's Online is, right? Where we've created opportunities for students to get to know themselves better. So evaluate, we've got a standardized framework that we've referred to as TESI. It's the Employability and Entrepreneurial Skills Index, where we ask students to assess, their capabilities across multiple competencies that is making them ready for work or starting their ventures. And why that's important is that when you've evaluated yourself and then you acquire all of this learning that is abundant and all of these degrees that you have, we take it a step further that the outcomes of that evaluation assessment allows you to be able to match with mentors, right? Who essentially help you to apply that knowledge. And whether you're using real world problems, they're guided by mentors that are connected to you based on the gaps that you have. It gives you really an opportunity as well to be truly, truly ready for work or to actually start your venture. So the biggest gap is application, and we are on the mission to ensure that the application is a focus and, we have better ready graduates at the end of it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So you did mention earlier that information is everywhere. I mean, there's an abundance of information, right? Why then do you think mentorship is important? If we have information everywhere, why do we need mentorship?
Right. So yes, information is everywhere, but and really information tells you what you need to know.
Yeah.
But mentorship helps you believe what you know, right? And that's a very thoughtful difference, because mentors in themselves, right, help you to make sense of the information that you've read. Lots of, again, like I mentioned earlier, access to information is completely abundant, but a mentor guides you through the journey of making sense of what that information means to you, what it has meant to them in their own journeys, and also essentially make meaning of what that information means to the business world or to communities at large. So mentorship, in itself is a very important tool. I personally have had the experience of having multiple mentors over my career, right? Whether from, early on in, when I was at university to, the multiple roles that I have taken, across my career. And, it's just been amazing the role that mentorship plays, right? But also, I would also describe mentorship in a sense as, something that allows you to accelerate the speed of trust, right? And what I mean by that is that sometimes, what the gap is that you just don't have the confidence, you don't have the career direction you need to take. And so mentorship in itself allows you to, trust your instincts better, right? Especially when you have a great mentor. But, there's something truly human about mentorship. The challenge that we are trying to solve as Where's Online is to scale mentorship, is to structure mentorship in a way that is accessible for many
Right.
different people that don't have access to mentors in an easy way. Can I get a mentor at the snap of my fingers, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's hard. And so that's the problem that, we're trying to solve. But mentorship, and the real form of mentorship cannot be replaced, right? But technology can accelerate it, right? And you can get mentors from anywhere in the world that you probably didn't have access to.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Seeing how, despite the abundance of information, not everybody still access them. Not everybody can apply them. So now mentorship just makes that journey shorter.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, so from your journey, I do know that your personal journey, I know you have met a lot of persons, those who accelerate their career and those who do not. What do you think differentiates these two different sets of persons? What is a differentiating factor?
Yeah. I would say that the differentiator between those that accelerate their careers and those that get stuck really in their careers is really about intelligence, right?
Okay.
Both sets of people are typically quite intelligent people. For the most part, it's about intentionality, right? So those that accelerate their careers are very intentional. They are very curious. They ask a lot of questions. They don't wait for permission to, take on, different projects. They volunteer more. They are bolder and more courageous in having conversations about their careers with people that they believe can help. They're very, very, very open to taking feedback, right, and giving feedback as well in a thoughtful way. So those that accelerate their careers generally do all of these things that I've mentioned well. Those that are, get stuck are the ones that are waiting for permission. They're waiting for the perfect role to move to. They're waiting for the perfect opportunity to take a step, that the perfect course or the perfect degree or like they're always waiting, and they are essentially outsourcing their growth to an ideal that doesn't exist. So, in a sense, my advice, right, is that for those that truly want to keep accelerating their careers, they exhibit all of these qualities of curiosity and adaptability. And usually those that accelerate their career, I remember, a quote that, one of the senior leaders, in my own journey said. He said that the smartest people in the room are not those that know it all. They're the ones that can say, I don't know. They're the ones that can think aloud with others in the room. And they're the ones that you actually want in the room, right?
Yeah.
And so my challenge for those that accelerate their careers is, can you be the smartest person in the room with that definition? Can you be the person that your boss wants in the room with them? Can you be that person that doesn't have the ego to say, I actually don't know, and I'm humble enough to go and find the right answer? Those are the people that, generally speaking, accelerate their careers quite quickly.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of something my dad always says. He says that in my language too, I can't say it that way. He says that
and then translate it to us.
Yeah, then translate. He says that those that ask questions do not get lost. So there's a way they put it, that those that ask questions don't get lost. And that's exactly what you've said. And I think this is just a reminder for me.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
So in the last few years, there've been this shift to artificial intelligence, and it's currently changing our work, how we do things, how we learn. So how do you think it's going to influence mentorship, learning, and how would artificial intelligence influence it?
Yeah, so I do believe that artificial intelligence is, going to be one of the most, massive disruptions of our time. So it
Yeah,
already is,
exactly.
But I also strongly believe that artificial intelligence won't replace humans.
Okay.
It would augment the human, quest or endeavor, right? It would assist us to be more productive as it already is. It would help us to be smarter. It will help us to prioritize the things that matter most to us. It will give us time back. It will do a lot of things. Specifically around learning, I imagine a world that we already live in today where, you know, students are not necessarily tied to one curricula or one traditional curricula. AI would help to create, different learning pathways, personalized curricula. It will reduce the inequity to learning and getting even better grades. You have, curated content, fast at your fingertips because of artificial intelligence. It's doing that at pace right now. And, I think we're really truly embracing it. I think for mentorship, what AI does is, it also, essentially democratizes access,
Mm.
right,
Yeah.
to knowledge, and to access to mentors and career advisors. I'll give an example. Part of the core offerings of Wes Online, is to serve as a career services platform for tertiary institutions across Nigeria. And the way we position that essentially is that as every university on boards with its students and its learners, right? They have access to a pool of career counselors in
Yeah.
their university. But what AI does is that, we have a AI career advisor
Oh.
that is, embedded within, the platform, and they can engage with the career advisor, asking for direction, what courses they should do in addition, what future degrees they should do, the type of jobs that they can get after they graduate. And a lot of this information, is democratized using this AI career advisor. But what the AI career advisor doesn't actually replace is the judgment, the wisdom, the empathy that would come
Yeah.
from having conversations with a
With
career
true.
advisor or an
True.
industry
Yeah.
mentor, that we've created as part of this ecosystem of support for the learner. So AI for sure is accelerating even how we think about mentorship at scale and how we think about career advisory at scale. And I think the last thing I would say is that it also has a way of influencing how we think about employability as well, right? It will, give folks the opportunity to have access to the right type of skills that enables them to make a decision at the tip of their hands around, do I need to wait on this long line to get a job and be super employable for it? Or can I harness the skills that I've built towards being more employable to create a business venture? And because the time to create a business venture is much shorter with AI, the market research, the feasibility studies, the financial models, what you need to do to be able to start a company in the blink of an eye, everything is then it's going to be able to propel you to be faster, quicker entrepreneurs to solve problems that are only known to you
Yeah.
in the community and in the immediate environment you are. So I think AI is just going to be it is already a fantastic tool set, and what is going to differentiate the people that eventually win with artificial intelligence is not essentially is those that can work effectively with it, because
Yeah.
it's not going to replace the human potential.
Yeah. So you add it from your first. Yeah, artificial intelligence is not replacing humans. It
Yeah.
should just enhance what we do already. What impact would you like West Online to have on Africans' talent and educational ecosystem?
Right. So my vision for Where's Online as and its impact is simple, but it's also ambitious. Right. I want Where's Online to be a platform or an ecosystem enabler that accelerates Africa's human potential.
Yeah.
Right. I would imagine a world where Where's Online plays a large role to enable learners have access to lots and lots of bespoke learning, have access to clarity around the types of jobs that they can do now and in the future. I would like, Where's Online to be viewed as that enabler for universities and institutions in the tertiary space specifically, where they're not really degree factories anymore.
Yeah.
I want them to truly be talent ecosystems, right? I would like a world where Where's Online, serves as that confidence partner for employers, where they know that students or learners that have either accreditations or credentials or endorsements by walking through the Where's Online journey and ecosystem, right, are employable in their organizations, are fundable for those that are looking to create ventures, and that the future leaders that they want to hire have the right foundation because they went on the journey with Where's Online. I would also imagine a world where industry professionals, mentors, professional bodies, regulators, collaborate in a way that they've never collaborated before.
Yeah.
Right? I would like Where's Online to be that tool and that orchestration layer that has an impact on policy direction. Right? I would love to be able to have regulators think about the entrepreneurship and employability ecosystem, think about the skills gap in those systems and how they can invest in the infrastructure to accelerate it, and Where's Online providing them the insights and the data that enables them inform the right policy for their constituencies. And so ultimately, I would like Where's Online to have impact as this education to employment marketplace where mentorship is readily available, learning is abundant, and opportunity is at their fingertips.
Wow. And from what I'm saying, I think we are already more than halfway there. So,
Absolutely. I know we're working hard at it.
Exactly. So finally, Dr. Roti, what advice will you give to young persons who feel uncertain about their career paths or their career journey?
Right. Uncertainty is normal. And so my advice is that any young person shouldn't wait for the perfect roadmap for their careers. It's important for them to be flexible to the direction that the little efforts that they make every day takes them. I think it's important as well that they stay very, very curious, right? It's important that you seek mentors, you seek opportunities for volunteering in projects, you seek opportunities to not choose to build skills just for one career path, but build skills that allows you to be able to pivot between multiple career paths, right? One of the things that is really important that I've sort of embraced in my growing, because we all are, we all have anxiety, even when you've had a 20 plus year career, to, oh, what is the perfect next step that I will take? And what I always try to do is I need to prepare for opportunity, but I don't stop, because opportunity usually meets people when they're still in motion. Most of the time, people stop and overanalyze things. So, as a young person, keep moving, right? Don't get stuck. Be intentional. On board on Where's Online and learn something new. Find a mentor, that can add more perspective to you. But most importantly, I would say there's a word called learning velocity. And what that means is that you need to learn faster than the environment that is changing. So it's important for you to have a lot of learning velocity in your arsenal, right? And learn fast and stay curious every day. And that's my advice.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Dr. Roti. It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you today. And for every young person out there, you heard it. You heard it from here first. Get on West Online to kickstart your career journey.
Sure.
So there you have it. That's it on today's episode of BizGen Flow. We hope to see you next time. Stay tuned to West Online. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.